We deal with a ton of history here. But what actually is history? Just things that were written down? Events recorded in old newspapers and forgotten books? What about our oral histories? Events that stand the test of time, always remaining fresh in the minds of people that experience them, then passed down through generations, as true as the existence of the sun itself. The South is full of those accounts, especially in the remote and rural areas where change happens at a snail's pace. A world immune to the rapid changes of an uncertain world, based on out-of-control technology and the fly-by-night whims of the cult of pseudo-scientific papers. For these communities, they remember history as if it were yesterday, because perhaps it was. Time is relevant, as the saying goes. And in places where time changes very little, history remains current. This is where oral history survives. And it's an example of that type of oral history that we'll look at today. An oral history that has cemented itself in the Ouachita Mountains, as true to the area as the trees themselves. You know what we like to say here. It doesn't matter what you believe. It matters what they believe. Everyone loves a good, strange, weird, or bizarre story. Well, welcome to the American South, where dark legends and haunted history lurk around every corner. Where superstition, folklore, and a touch of backwoods magic blend with everyday culture. Some say, in order to survive. This is Dixie After Dark. The American Civil War was waging through the South, as did the effects of the war on different communities. Contrary to popular belief, not all Southerners were in support of the Confederacy. We've already touched on the ruthlessness of the Home Guard in our presentation on Aunt Jenny Johnston, and that was by no means an isolated event. Many of those that fought in the Confederacy was forced to do so, many of them by the Home Guard, under the penalty of fines, jail times, or sometimes even death. These tactics created groups of Southern refugees, people that attempted to flee the ravages of the war and the home raids by their own Home Guard. But the Union was not typically acceptive of these fleeing Southerners, mostly viewing those from south of the Mason-Dixon line as a collective rather than individuals with separate beliefs and ideals. For the most part, both sides had a similar, simplistic view of things. If you're not for us, you're against us. So, for those that didn't want to be involved, there was little one could do. They were stuck between two warring nations that would not accept them on either side. They couldn't go north, and they couldn't go south. There was little land that offered any semblance of safety or neutrality, aside from the mountains between the two factions. Steering clear of both the north and the south, many of these refugees found themselves fleeing west, some to the rocky and unforgiving thin-soiled land of the Ouachita Mountain area of Arkansas. Life was hard enough during these years of war, and the harshness of the mountaintop communities only made it worse, especially during the winter months. One winter in particular, a brutal storm blew in from Oklahoma and blanketed the area of Rich Mountain in ice and snow. The communities of families hiding out on Rich Mountain were hit hard. Supplies were scarce, food was running low, and sickness was spreading everywhere. One family in particular was hit the hardest, the Wilkerson family. There's never any mention as to where the father was, and many speculate that he was off fighting in the war. Regardless, the family of the mother and several children were there on Rich Mountain, and all had taken sick with dangerously high fever, all but one, an unnamed teenage daughter. The young girl did all that she could to care for her family and nurse them back to health, but no matter what she did, all of her efforts seemed to be for naught. Eventually, the daughter had no choice. The family supply of water had dwindled down, and someone had to brave the storm for more. The nearby spring that the family got their fresh water from was not that far away, but she knew the weather outside would make the trek that much harder. Normally, it would be a chore that could wait until morning, but with the fever plaguing her family, waiting was not a luxury that she had. And besides, if the storm kept up its onslaught, chances were the spring could freeze solid in the next day or so, if not frozen already. In the young girl's mind, it was now or never. The weather was rough, and there was times that the young Wilkerson girl didn't think that she'd make it, but the love of her family and determination to get them what they needed pushed her on. There was one thing she didn't account for, though. Even though the weather was unforgiving, there was something else out there that was more harsh than the unrelenting storm. On a secluded mountain in the middle of the night, during a brutal winter storm, the young Wilkerson girl found herself cornered by a pack of wolves. The quick-thinking teen immediately scaled a nearby tree as the beast closed in, and she was able to get just high enough, just quick enough, to escape the vicious attack, and she set out to wait out the wolves that were on the ground below. The next morning, the young Wilkerson girl was found still hiding in her tree, frozen to death, having succumbed to the elements overnight. The young girl was buried in a small cemetery on the slopes of Rich Mountain. Many say that she was the first buried there. And as with any cemetery, it grew over time. The site can still be visited on Rich Mountain, now residing in the Ouachita National Forest. The site is the last remaining sign of the Rich Mountain community that once existed there, hiding out from the turmoils of the world around them. The last of those families were forced out when the government acquired the land and established the park in 1907, then expanding to overtake the area of Rich Mountain in 1923, decades after the cemetery was already established. Referred to as the Pioneer Cemetery, it's preserved and maintained by the Parks Department, a testament to the families that once lived there. There are 23 known graves there, although only one has a proper tombstone. The others are marked with simple stones native to the area. There are signs at the site that list the names of who all is believed to be buried there, compiled by exhausting research and interviews of any surviving locals after the cemetery was discovered to rest within the park. But for the most part, the small cemetery stayed hidden, remote, and undisturbed for all those years, much as it was always meant to be, leaving those perished souls there to rest in peace. And that they do. All but one. Over the years, people have seen the spirit of a young female, believed to be that of the young Wilkerson girl, roaming about the cemetery and surrounding woodlines, as well as strange lights being seen in the trees there at nighttime. Some say the young girl is still trying to return to her cabin, long since lost to time, urged on by the same relentless determination to care for her sick family members that she carried within her during her last night in the living world. She never interacts with anyone, never even comes close to acknowledging that you are there. It's as if she has a job to do and is still there, trying to accomplish that task, trapped in a time where her family is still alive, but on the brink of death, waiting for her to return with the water that her family so desperately needed. Although the Wilkerson girl's name has been lost to time, her story and tragic end has survived in the minds and hearts of locals, as well as being preserved with the efforts of the Park Service. Signs on the short trail to the Pioneer Cemetery keeps the story alive, reminding visitors of the souls that are buried there, both the Wilkerson girls and others, giving modern visitors a glimpse back in time at what life was like on Rich Mountain all those years ago. A time of war and upheaval, and the remote communities that just wanted to be left alone. These were not slave owners, nor were these rich business owners looking to exploit the rich industries of the South. These were simple families, just trying to exist and survive. And for many, if not all of them, survival was a day-by-day existence. Many survived those times, and as we see with today's story, some did not. But even with those that perished, their love of family and community, their loyalty, determination, and true grit still survive, even when their living bodies could not.